Yes, welcome once again, everybody. Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's March 11th, 2019. Presented, as always, by the Marijuana Times. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. A bunch of great articles there from a bunch of great writers, social media links, and more. You click the video tab while you're there, and you will find this show, marijuanatimes.org. Today, we're talking about medical marijuana in Kentucky. Also, a proposal to legalize medical marijuana and hemp in Idaho. And the NHL showing us the future when it comes to marijuana and professional sports. All of that coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Make sure you're growing safe and poison-free. Don't use banned pesticides. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you are growing. You can accomplish all of these goals with Natureside, nature-side.com. Proud sponsor of Cannabis News. The site is spelled C-I-D-E. Go and check them out. This first story by yours truly, marijuanatimes.org. Medical marijuana takes another big step in Kentucky. Basically an update on what's going on with medical marijuana in Kentucky. You can check it out. It's linked in the description of this video, of course, and is on marijuanatimes.org. The HB 136, the medical marijuana bill, there was a lot of compromises put into it. Homegrown was taken away, among other things, to get it to pass through a committee, which it did last week. That's the farthest medical marijuana has ever gotten in Kentucky. But it may get to the House floor for a full vote sometime this week. But if it's going to go beyond that, the odds of it going beyond that are not good. There's not a lot of time left with the legislature meeting in Frankfort, Kentucky, the capital. And a lot of people are ticked off with the concessions that have been made, especially if you comb through a lot of the comments on Facebook where a lot of these things are being discussed. People are not happy at all the concessions made. And even with the concessions, it doesn't look like it's going to become law this year anyway, and that they'll have to start over again next year and see if we can get a little bit farther. It's obviously the incremental nature of this is frustrating, the very slow incremental nature of this when we're talking about a state like Kentucky. And it's made it all the more frustrating when you think about the fact that we're talking about medical marijuana. We're not talking about giving people permits to own, fully automatic machine guns or flamethrowers or, rocket launchers, or allowing people to store nuclear waste at their home. We're talking about sick people getting some medical marijuana, maybe from a dispensary, maybe growing a plant or two in their house. It doesn't seem like a big deal when you think about the bigger picture of things, but it's a big deal in a lot of states, and Kentucky's one of those states where there's a battle year after year after year. Get a little bit farther, get a couple more people on board, a couple more lawmakers. People like Kentuckians for Medical Marijuana, that group, Kentucky Normal was down there this year. Every year they're in Frankfurt. They got patients testifying in all these different committees. They're talking to lawmakers and educating and all this, and just year after year after year, it's another legislature's open. Well, everybody's got to get up and go back to Frankfurt and fight for these patients to be able to use medical marijuana legally. And then it doesn't happen this year, so we'll got to do it all again next year. Pack everybody up, everybody back to Frankfurt for testimony and talking to lawmakers and etc. And now it's just gotten to the point where it's so many years in a row now. I don't know. Frustrating is the word, the perfect word, in many ways. This next story from IdahoStatesman.com. Effort underway to get medical marijuana and hemp initiative on the Idaho ballot in 2020. Legalizing medical marijuana and industrial hemp in Idaho is the first citizen initiative proposal out of the gate for the 2020 election. Idaho's not a state that comes to mind when you think of the relaxation of marijuana laws. A new cannabis advocacy group, Idaho Cannabis Coalition, is spearheading the effort. The group said it has filed a medical marijuana / industrial hemp petition with the Idaho Secretary of State's office to start the process. You can see a copy of that petition that's been filed by clicking the link to the story in the description of this video. Once the Secretary of State reviews the petition, the group can start collecting signatures and try to qualify for the statewide 2020 ballot. There are certain thresholds that have to be met now, but there is legislation pending in the legislature that make those the thresholds for getting a citizen initiative on the ballot even more difficult. So what will happen there? I foresee a lot of what's happening in Kentucky right now. A lot of year after year after year battles. Because there's going to be a group of states that are the last to pass any meaningful marijuana law reform. And sadly, states like Kentucky and Idaho may be among that last group. This next story is from ESPN.com. We don't do a lot of ESPN stories. Is the NHL the future of marijuana in pro sports? Why it could be. It's a long video. It's a lengthy story that you can check out again. The link is in the description of this video, as are all stories that I talk about. You can go check it out if it's something that's interesting to you. A couple paragraphs a little ways down in the story stood out to me. Officials from both the NHL and the NHLPA, the Players Association for the NHL, say the goal of their testing procedures is not to punish offenders, but rather identify those who need help and offer them help. Basically, in this article, they compare all the major pro sports and how the NHL is the most lenient when it comes to this sort of thing. In today's world, I think we're largely consistent with how people were approaching these things, NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley said. For a program that was originally developed in 1996, when the world was a lot different, it was extremely progressive in terms of how we dealt with these issues. Added NHLPA Executive Director Donald Fear, quote, "There's two different kinds of chemical substances, for lack of a better word. There are those that people feel can or do affect performance, and then you have others that can or may be abused. Then you have questions of legality. We live in a culture in which, when it comes to the latter thing, generationally there has been and continues to be an ongoing shift in attitudes. You want to try to reflect that from a personal standpoint, and this is personal. I don't think there ought to be an intrusion into someone's life without an awfully good reason." A lot of just common sense. I don't know. I mean, it sounds cliche. It sounds like, oh, well, you're biased. You pro marijuana guys. You think it sounds like common sense. But really, you just read through that statement. He acknowledges that things are changing when it comes to marijuana. There's some legality issues, obviously. But in the end, I don't think there ought to be an intrusion into someone's life without an awfully good reason. I don't know. I mean, is that controversial? I guess to some people it is. They think the reason doesn't have to be awfully good. It's just, whatever. I want to intrude in your life. You doing the weed? You doing the weed? You injecting the marijuanas? I want to intrude in your life. I want to make what you do illegal. Even though I don't know you, it doesn't affect me. No, I don't like it. Therefore, it should be illegal. No, it's dumb. It's dumb. You shouldn't be worried about other people's lives unless it's affecting your life. If they're infringing on your rights, then it becomes your problem. Until then, it's not your problem. Again, seems like common sense. Maybe I'm biased. Well, I am biased. I'll admit that. I'm the first to admit that, but I'm right. I'm sorry. I'm right. This sounds conceited. I don't care. I'm right. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Yeah, that's right. I said it. I like them apples. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show, Cannabis News. We're here for another week. Not that this is our last week. I'm just saying this is another week that we're here doing the show. 5 days a week. Find us at marijuanatimes.org. You can also search the Marijuana Times on Vimeo and YouTube. Subscribe. Also, Apple Podcasts if you want the audio version of the show. Thank you to all of you who like and comment and share on the videos. Please continue to do so. Thanks for watching and listening today. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.